Accelerated Technologies is a suspension shop not only dedicated to snowmobiles, but any type of power sport vehicle. And it doesn't matter if your machine is used for recreational or racing purposes, these guys can make it better.
Accelerated Technologies' grassroots level has been pavement racing, but I've always been a snowmobile enthusiast. And as the company grew, we started to see the quiet period in September to December. And I thought, well, let's fill that in with helping out some of our friends and customers with their snowmobile setup. So we started to do that, and it was incredibly well received. Every market that we have experience in, whether it's side-by-side, ATV, motorcycle, enduro-cross, road racing, snowmobiling, we learn. We learn a little bit about geometry, about vehicle dynamics, suspension capability, compliance, bump absorption. And we can pass that on to the snowmobiler. And it's just been so successful. We've been getting crazy busy. The last year, our busiest months ever for the company were October, November, and December, which was unheard of 5 years ago. So the typical customer is the regular snowmobiler. We actually very rarely see the hardcore guys. They're going to take some time to win them over and come over and see what we can do for them. There's exceptions, when in every demographic we work with, we've helped the slowest guys and put people on the podium. So it's been fun that way. But most of the people are, 40, 50, 60, 70-year-old guys and girls coming in the shop. Well, we do a baseline setup for the average rider, and we get a chance to educate them at that point about what we're looking for in terms of the dynamics and the loading of the snowmobile. But we ask them, we interview them, we talk to them about what do you want, and that gives us kind of the direction on how we set up their machine. And every machine is tailored. It's not cookie cutter, just like people. You very rarely find somebody that's 211 pounds, 5'7", with short arms. All of these things affect where we sit on the snowmobile and how the snowmobile operates. So the phone almost always rings, the next week, and they're like, man, that's the best money I ever spent. And it works well for both ways, because at the time we can educate them about the limitations of their OEM stuff. And quite often they're happy with that. But people who are a little bit more demanding, a little bit more specific, have higher expectations, they're going to say, I was thinking about what you said, and those ski shocks are bottoming now that we got the ride height down just a little bit low. Handling's great, but I'm going to look at maybe a set of Elkas for next season. And we've been seeing the relationship grow from year to year, and they keep coming back, and they're always smiling. We come into the shop and I like to see all the machines lined up. I like them all pointing the same way, just little things that have carried over from running a race team, so that when you go to the track, it just goes like clockwork. The tools are where they're supposed to be. You're not tripping over extension cords. So we get a lot of positive comments just on the impression of our shop. They come in a little backwoods shop in Buckhorn, and they're like, wow, this place is really nice. And we're proud of that, and we strive for that. But that's part of our work ethic and our work motto, is to dot I's and cross T's and make sure stuff is perfect, because we've sent superbike riders out, and you stand on pit row and watch them go by, and if you're not 100% confident in every nut, bolt, and fastener, it'll eat at you, So we try and take that same philosophy with our customers. We strive for perfection and settle on awesome. Haliburton Force has opened their arms to us and welcomed our testing crew here this week. And it's been phenomenal. The trails are amazing. The facilities are fantastic. And we joke that it's like having our hotel room right on pit out at a racetrack. We're not treating it as a racetrack by any means, but we come from a racing background, and it is so neat to be able to test right from the door of our cabin. So that's been wonderful.
Any time spent setting up the suspension on your sled is time well spent, even if you just got preload adjustment only. There is a ton of potential in here, and setting this up correctly will improve your ride experience.
Snowmobiler TV brought us that XRS, the new 900 Turbo Renegade, as a challenge. We were going to ride it and throw a setup at it, and it was wonderful because, man, it was a long way off. You know, we got on that machine, and it wasn't just myself. Every rider of every different weight and height got off it and kind of went, ooh, you know, there's some room for improvement on that machine. It's got an aggressive long track, you know, and right away that's a challenge. It makes the loading between the front of the skid and the back of the skid so much more important. The XRS has got longer ski shocks. It's a taller machine. Its lineage, its heritage has come from the racetrack, and there's still some of that in its design. Does the average trail rider want or need that? Want, maybe. Need, I don't think so. That thing is so perched up and tall and tippy as delivered and sensitive to throttle inputs, and the new intelligent throttle on the 900 Turbo is a great idea, but I think there's some more refinement that it can get. It's kind of a little bit lurchy and twitchy in some of the modes, and when we ride on sport mode, it left us with wanting some more. But fortunately, the MXZ XRS, or that package, it's got lots of adjustability. So we had fun, and we started to rip into it and started to make some huge improvements right away. The first change we did was evaluate actually where the ski preload was set at, the ski shock preload. And we want that thing kind of in the minimum zone so that the A-arms are as flat as they can be with the OEM ski spring package, because you can only really go to 0 preload, and then you need to stop there. So that'll set the nose down. But then you've worsened the fulcrum effect around the center shock. So we rolled the machine up on its side and started winding out center shock preload. It had probably 5, 6, 7 millimeters of preload on it. I went to 0, and then I kept going and wound the collar all the way up the body. The reason for that is I knew I was going to pull the limiter up. And on the arm motion, 129 arm motion, different skid, but very similar relationship. Every hole in the limiter strap is about a 10 millimeter change in shock length. So I can forecast how much preload I wanted to take off the shock body for the upcoming limiter strap hole adjustment. So we went up 2 holes on the limiter strap, but it at least needs another one. It was a significant improvement. Everybody that got on the machine immediately, they echoed the same handling issues, but they were going much quicker on it. There's a lot more confidence in the machine and what it was going to do.
None of these adjustments cost you anything on a stock sled other than some time. And done right, it'll let you travel further and faster without the feeling of being beat up at the end of the day.
If we can't get to where we need to be with the stock spring package, we want to offer the customer several stages. You know, that we really want it to fit their budget and their expectations. So we'll work on tuning their original sled with all the OEM parts, and then we have spring kits available to get to that next level. But then if that doesn't do it, or they really want some premium adjustability or some real premium performance, then we'll really highly recommend an Elka shock package. And then when we get into Elka, we've got 5 levels of shocks there. And then the sky's the limit. We can give them a snowmobile that they'll never outride.
To help dial in suspensions and test new ideas, you need to look at the process methodically. To accomplish this, John uses not only his own motorcycle racetrack experience, but he's also enlisted the help of other professional race drivers like Mark Wilkins to get the feedback he needs to develop new suspension theories.
I've hooked up a few years ago with Mark Wilkins, professional race car driver from Hyundai this year, and just an awesome guy, a tremendous amount of podium and international race championship experience, and Mike Ferguson. And they came to me as Snowmobile is looking for some suspension support. They couldn't find it anywhere else. Somebody with the similar mindset as my racing background to be on the same page, you know. And we immediately gelled, and they're part of our unofficial testing team that we have now. So we hope to ride, you know, 3, 4, 5 times a year, and every time it's like a full-on race effort showing up somewhere. We got the service trailer, we got tooling, we got spring rate options, we've got a list of items that we're going to knock through and test and evaluate. And these two guys, Mike and Mark, have been instrumental in helping us really get to the next level.
Yeah, so my passion for snowmobiling and my career in professional driving go hand in hand. You know, I've been snowmobiling since I was a kid. I've been racing since I was a kid. I've been able to turn and parlay my passion for motorsport into a career, and then I've been lucky enough when winter allows to come out and snowmobile and continue to fine-tune my skill set on the snow when I'm not at the track. So Accelerated Technologies and John Sherrard, we kind of fell into that through a good friend of mine, Mike Ferguson, who I had the pleasure of racing with and working with. We had a great working relationship. He got into snowmobiling. We kind of both dove into snowmobiling at a much deeper level. His focus and commitment to making the snowmobile work as best as it possibly could totally fits in with my mindset about how to set up a race car to make it as fast as possible. So we kind of pieced that together, and we really jived. Everything we would talk about on the snow, we would both have very similar feedback, and we would just laugh. We'd do a kilometer or two. What did you think? What changes should we make? And then we basically decided at one point that we needed to put better equipment on our snowmobiles, get rid of the stock suspension, throw on some proper dampers. So we looked at Elka, we looked at John, and John's an expert in damper tuning and had the right product for us. So we show up here, we want to go out on the trail, and right away we want to feel a baseline. So we need to establish a baseline. We need to know what the conditions are, and if they're going to be consistent like they are here at Haliburton Forest right now, we can just fine tune that balance and focus on, okay, it's a hard trail, it's hard packed, so we've got a little more grip today. So how do we manage that and work with that? And what are the tools that are going to allow us to have the platform we need to be able to go through the corner without getting any ski lift? To have that confidence to get to throttle. And we feel that right away. So we'll go a kilometer, even half a kilometer, and most of the time we'll stop, we get off, and right away, what did you feel? And when the sled is in the window, you can very quickly kind of come together and say, okay, no, we're feeling the same thing. That's really the process. We have a saying, no changes, please. And with a big smile on our face, we say that's as good as it's gonna get right now. And then we can go out and ride, and we will put in a good run and get a good feel for it. But until we get to that stage as racers, nope, we need to stop. We need to make the change. We need to make it better until we're both smiling and say, okay, no, it's pretty darn good right now, and that's how we wanna ride it.
Both John and Mark gave me the chance to ride their own personal machines, and I've got to say, when it comes to handling, these things are next level. They are now the new benchmark for me to compare other sleds to when it comes to handling. I can forgive manufacturers for not producing sleds that ride and handle the way that these two sleds did, because it would just cost too much and would be beyond most people's capabilities anyways. But riding these machines has given me a glimpse of what could be.